Welcome boys and girls, Christine here with a discussion about the abandoned legendary lords of the Empire in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, Volkmar the Grim and Markus Wulfhart. I think Volkmar in particular in the Lords of the End Times does deserve something or an outright removal from the campaign map, because the way Nagash was brought back in the End Times is they used Volkmar's body, specifically Arkhan and Manfred used Volkmar's body. Interesting side note on the subject, Volkmar is a direct descendant of Sigmar, so pretty important stuff with regards to Volkmar in the lore, in the End Times, hell, even Storm of Chaos. Now, in the game itself, Volkmar himself is kinda whatever as a legendary lord. He does get hero recruiter rank for witch hunters and warrior priests. He does have bonus versus infantry for Empire Knights, Flagellants, and Free Company militias, which are basically the free units you don't care about using at all in an Imperial campaign. The reason you don't care about using them is because Free Company Militia and Flagellants are now worth a damn, and Empire Knights, I mean, they're decent enough, I suppose, but, you know, you got Reiksguard, Knights of the Blazing Sun, Knights of the Black Rose at tier 3, and they're just much better units. So his faction effects do leave a lot to be desired. His Lord skill line is substantially better, with regards to at least benefiting his battle prayers. Cooldown minus 50% for battle prayers, and the faction effect of battle prayers is also very useful. But I gotta say, having a special skill line that's based around the idea, or lord effects based around the idea of, oh, let's buff these crappy units for the Empire that no one really cares to use, is not really that great when you're talking about an Empire campaign. So that is one of the things I would say that Volkmar does need a change with regards to his campaign. But the bigger problem with Volkmar is the same problem Manfred has. It's the same issue that Tomb Kings have. And it will be interesting to see how they handle that with regards to the End Times, because the books of Nagash as a system just suck. Just simply put, they're not a great system. The distance of the books, the locations of the books that exist, the randomization that also exists with regards to the books, like the effects that you're getting from them, the fact that you can't acquire them through military alliances. All of these things create a lot of problems. And here's the thing about Volkmar. He cannot get the Electrocount State Troopers unless he acquires the Books of Nagash. So out of all of the campaigns that benefit immensely from the Books of Nagash, or use the Books of Nagash system, it is in fact Volkmar that suffers from it the most, because he's missing those State Troopers, which are pretty awesome, and then on top of that, he's missing a lot of his faction effects, specifically that ward save for all characters. So in essence, Volkmar's real faction effects are tied to these books, and those books don't really work all that well as a campaign system at the moment. So that is absolutely something that Creative Assembly should be looking to tackle. Also, Nehekara as a campaign area is not really the best in the world. I would say it's worth it more if you're looking to use Volkmar in a campaign to play any other Imperial campaign and just simply vassalize him. And that is not a joke whatsoever with regards to his specific campaign dynamic. I mean, at least he does start with the ability of recruiting one warrior priest, I suppose, and you do get the benefit, quote-unquote, of Arch-Lectors by purchasing this DLC, but his starting position is not great. He has a province with just 2 settlements, which in itself is a very limiting factor. Those are also port settlements, so that's an even bigger limiting factor, because you can't construct various unit recruitment buildings, so you end up with a far more limited campaign than what you should have. And That is really the big problem when we're talking about Volkmar the Grim. Like, just everything, really. The books, the starting position, the province he starts in, the dynamics of his campaign. I would say the only real benefit in his campaign, and only to some extent, is the climate situation, because he does have Wasteland as suitable climate. Well, enjoy marching through the Badlands in order to capture it as Volkmar. It is not really a fun dynamic. Then there is Markus Wulfhart. If Volkmar has an annoying campaign system in terms of getting the Books of Nagash in a questionable start position, well, Markus Wulfhart is worse in every singular way. In terms of action effects, he gets Lord recruit rank for Huntsman Generals, which at the moment, they're really the worst lore choice you could go for. I'm not joking. Generals are better, Arch-Lectors are better, Master Engineers are much better. Huntsman General are the worst lore choice right now for the Empire. In fact, this entire DLC has been rendered rather useless with the release of the Thrones of Decay DLC. And that means basically Markus Wulfhart is not worth playing. Yes, you do get the ability of acquiring Imperial supplies. That sounds great until you realize that you need to fill up a meter in order to unlock all those different units. And the worst part here, though, is you're constantly playing this campaign at a severe disadvantage. You're increasing enemy leadership, which just makes battles long and tedious. You're increasing their weapon strength. You're reducing your control -5. And that's on top of the control penalty that you get on any difficulty level, except easy, I suppose. But on legendary, it is -8 level of control. So constant rebellions that you're going to have to deal with throughout this campaign. And also you have a campaign in Lustria, and that's really bad in itself. Lustria is just one of the worst designed campaign areas. And it's not like he's even great at dealing with Lustria. What he has in terms of... He actually is really bad at dealing with most kinds of climate. The only things he has are a temperate island, jungle, and savanna. Now, it's kind of weird to think about the fact that you can take Ulfwan, which, yeah, I would not recommend picking a fight with the High Elves if you're playing Markus Wulfhart. But you can take over Ulfwan, but you can't take over the Empire. So even confederating other legendary lords of the Empire is not recommended if you're playing a campaign as Markus Wulfhart. Beyond that, he constantly gets rogue armies of lizardmen spawning due to the hostility meter he has in his campaign. So this is ridiculous, by the way, from every singular perspective, gameplay, and lore. So lizardmen are going to spawn rogue armies not against Slaanesh with a mask, not against Skulltaker, not against the Skaven, not against the Dark Elves, not against the Norskans, or the other factions that are a problem in Lustria. They're going to spawn rogue armies just to deal with Markus Wulfhart. That is absurd. That is ridiculous. You start with the tier 1 port settlement. You have unpleasant climate in in the first settlement that you take in this campaign, so that's another limiting factor. You start next to the mask. Your entire expansion path is limited. The movement range, the design of the map, everything is against Markus Wulfhart. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly what Creative Assembly could do in order to improve Markus Wulfhart's position in a campaign, because they would need to redo all of Lustria. In fact, that's something I've been arguing for a very, very long time, and that Lustria just sucks. That is the situation right now in Total War Warhammer, but he has this focus. If we look at him, he has this focus on archers and huntsmen. Well, archers are worthless, and huntsmen, well, yes, they're pretty decent ranged units. The problem is that, again, with Thrones of Decay and all the awesome gunpowder units, it's just kind of not worth it. Your recruitment situation is by default limited until you get a certain level of Imperial supply. So what that means is things like increasing hero capacity is limited. Higher tier units are limited initially. You have to unlock them. And that is, in general, from my view, something that Creative Assembly should never have done, really, with Total War Warhammer, but they did it for Markus Wulfhart. You do get these quote-unquote legendary heroes, but they're not really legendary heroes in his campaign either, so they're not as good as proper legendary heroes, and on top of that, the entire quest system that they have is also in itself very tedious and annoying. So even those special heroes that Markus Wulfhart has are not really worth all that much. Don't play this campaign, it's not worth it, and yes, I do believe Markus Wulfhart does deserve a lot more love and attention for Creative Assembly. Honestly, I think Beast and the Hunter is one of the worst DLCs that Creative Assembly has released. I mean, it's obviously overshadowed by things like, oh, Shadows of Change, and, you know, in terms of popularity, Grim the Grave and Queen of the Crown are even less popular than this, but still, not a great character, not a great campaign, not even worth it for the DLC content. Regiments for now, kinda to some extent, but that's roughly it. Questine signing up, stay tuned for more.